that, I'd like to first go off case, then I'll go on case. All right. I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. I'd like to thank my adjudicator. I'd like to thank our audience. I'd like to thank the government for giving us a case, and my colleague Wes. Now let's get into, I'd first like to hit the basics and the criteria definitions first, then I'll go to off case. So let's first go over their definitions about endorsement to support at the pulpit. We'll grant them that definition. Should as an action, we will grant that. Allowed as permit something to happen, we will grant that as well. The criteria as increased democratic process, they didn't really give me a great definition of increase in the democratic process, so I wanted to give you a further evaluation of how you should judge this debate. I want you to judge this debate based on the impact analysis that we've given you based on our contentions and counter-contentions. Based on that analysis, I want you to vote for governor on that case. And yes?
What do you mean by impact analysis? You talking about based on net benefits? Is that what you're arguing for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And so let's get into off case here. The first issue of doing this, implementing the churches to have this nonprofit status regardless of the situation, it would open up a lot of personal liability on the church. And so what we want to prevent is having the church directly impacted or directly sued when they start preaching about Barack Obama or John McCain onto the pulpit. And we're going to show you how, through allowing withholding the tax-exempt status, how this is actually a good thing for the whole church holistically. First of all, losing nonprofit status will allow authorities to go after the one person that is preaching on the pulpit, not just the church as a whole, because the church should be treated as a totally different sector, because the church is not the representative of the person that is actually speaking. It's actually quite the opposite. And so the last thing we want to go for is against the children's ministries, all those other ministries that are within the church organization, and attack their funding, attack their people. We should be attacking the person that is the head of the church, that is making all these messages and endorsements in the first place. Because if we're going to attack our church holistically, that would have a lot of detriment, of course, to all the funding, to all those small organizations that do build up a lot of education for all the children in those organizations. So by attacking a pastor directly on this issue, when he comes up and endorses a candidate, we can address the issue privately with him and get it resolved more peacefully. We'll have a better resolving of the issue at hand when we talk directly to the person, the confidant, that is in charge of this. So we don't have to have this huge mess of having the issue of withholding tax-exempt status or having it in the first place. We can just take it out directly from the root, because the root is really just from one person that is wanting to talk about Barack Obama or John McCain, and we're going to eliminate that by attacking the root of the issue. Yes, I'll take your question.
I just wanted to clarify, are you proposing a counterplan?
No, I'm just proposing the disadvantage of your plan. I'm first going off case. All right, and also the suing cases, again, they'll keep the church organizations safe from lawsuits. Any lawsuits, there'll be a blanket for all those other organizations. As we always want insurance for anything that is not going to be directly affecting the issue. And so, of course, we always want insurance for the children's organizations, those youth ministries, so we can always shelter the important lives that aren't really directly being affected by the campaign. Because children are the last thing they're really thinking about is Barack Obama and John McCain. They're really thinking about, what am I going to do with my life, or what's going to be for lunch tomorrow. They're not really thinking directly about the election, so we just don't want to shroud them with all this political mumbo-jumbo and just keep them in their right state of mind. And there's also, I just want to state a fact that the federal law bars nonprofits from supporting political candidates in the first place. And there's a reason to this. It's so the church itself won't be harmed in this way, so funding and all these lawsuits won't have to incur on the church itself. So this is actually a great thing to withhold tax-exempt status when someone does preach the word of Barack Obama or John McCain endorsing that candidate in any way. So we could have this shrouded insurance with them. And I'd like to get to my second disadvantage here about the misrepresentation of tithes and donations. People who donate money are usually expecting to give some sort of charity or some sort of direct donation to some sort of ministry, like missions ministry or like the children's ministry. And they want that money to be donated directly to that cause so they can see a positive effect in that area. But when it's being shrouded in a different area, such as endorsing a political candidate, they don't really know what they're going to do. It's just a lot of shift of advocacy on whose money is going to where. So they don't really get a clear picture of where the money is going to. It opens a lot of doors for corruption too. And that's the last thing we would want in the church, is more corruption in the church, as we've seen with the past. That has not been very well in history. And when we do have these tithes and donations being flooded into different directions other than the actual cause of charity. It forces advocacy out of the members and congregations. They don't want to go and be advocating with a certain candidate when they're not even for that. And even alone besides that, they don't even want to see their money go into somewhere where they don't want it to go in the first place. So they want their money to be in the direct place, and their advocacy will be shifted from the church in this way. And that will cause a lot of dissension, which is impact. That'll cause a lot of church dissension and impact. And that what comes with church dissension is a lot of psychological harm to the whole congregation as a whole. When they see someone or a huge change in their congregation, like someone dies or someone gets banned out because of some corruption, it causes a lot of psychological harm to the church. The whole structure is shaken. And so it causes a lot of people to leave the church. It causes a lot of children to go to other churches. And the children at the time are building relationships at that psychological stage. It causes a lot of children at the early age to cause a break in relationships to other children, because we want to keep a great relationship with all these children that are in the churches. And so when we break away from that, that's the last thing we want to do. We want to maintain these strong relationships and keep on building these relationships that are in with these church organizations. And so allowing the withholding of tax-exempt status again, there's a lot of benefit with all these sheltering of psychological harm and the charity harm with advocacy of people. Now let's get into on case here about the IRS. They give background about the release of the 1954 ban repeal, that would be their mandate, and the agent being the IRS and the agent or the enforcement being normal means. Now, I'd first like to touch about the IRS. They did this for a reason. Again, I gave you the reason that they were trying to protect the people for this in the first place. This wasn't made to harm them in any way. This was made to protect them for this reason. So they won't have to be directly affected. Those people that are in the congregation won't have to be directly harmed from any endorsement from the pastor if he does something outrageous in any way. And so again, I'd just like to clarify that. And then with their plan holistically, they give me three taglines from IRS, the mandate, agent enforcement, but there's not a lot of elaboration. It's a big, vague spot on there, which if they give me better specifics, I'd be able to argue it better. But it's just normal means, IRS, and release the 1954 ban repeal. I'd like to hear some action of how this is actually going to go through, how it's going to be implemented, the systematic approach of how this is going to be going through. Otherwise, it's a very vague case. I'll take your question.
So basically, what you're confused about is the enforcement means of our plan?
Actually, I'm on protected time right now. Sorry, I forgot. All right, now let's get to the first one. IRS are infringing against the First Amendment. It's actually banning against the First Amendment of everyone that's in the congregation, because all their voices are being shrouded over this huge pastor that's going for a candidate, and in response, all those voices that are trying to donate to a certain charity, their voices are not going to be heard. They're going to be shrouded over the endorsement of financially endorsing a candidate, or in any other way, the pastor speaking out. And so they're going to not be represented in any way. Turn this against them. It's going to be an infringement on their First Amendment if we don't withhold their tax-exempt status in this way. And then churches will be penalized. And now let's go to their second one about modernizing churches. Well, there's already modernizing churches. This is really non-unique already. There's already forums that you can go to in churches to talk about political stuff. And then again, on the third one about informed voters, this is not unique. People watch the news already every day and are informed. And then the fourth one, that candidates will have to listen to demographic. Again, non-unique. People already have to appeal to those specific candidates already.